everyone, Blade here, and welcome to my S Closer build guide where I'll go over her dupes, skill priorities, best weapons, gear sets, team comps, and more to help you utilize her abilities if you decide to pull for her. Let's go ahead and get into the video. S Closer, or Tropical Closer, has finally made an appearance in P5X, and this one is a long awaited character that a lot of people have been looking for. Not only because she's the first blessed DPS that's out here, but she also is a stellar AoE DPS that has finally made her appearance. Now, this changed a lot of people's gameplay thoroughly, especially once they ended up pulling for the character, but it's mainly just because of her little gimmick that she does go off of. Unlike most DPSs, she doesn't work off attack, and she only actually works off of the HP percentage, which is really good, seeing that now she can spam her skill 3 into a particular state, which allows her to deal even more damage. This isn't really possible for most DPSs here, but for her it made definitely this a reality. So for a lot of people, it made her kit even seem even better than normal. But just to sum up her kit explanation of how this does work here, she consumes mainly her own HP to make her use skills even more damaging. By using her skill 3, it does remove a couple of her cooldowns and allows her not only to restore her HP and get it back even quicker, but also allows her to deal greater heights of damage bonus and attack through just regular old damage, which is always a good thing to see. You only need about 16k HP when it does come down to this to use her whole kit, which is amazing, so a lot of people are going to take this advantage. Now, a good part about this is when it comes down to her passives, which it starts off with energy overload. Whenever Tropical Motaha does receive her healing, she increases her damage by 30% for 2 whole turns. Meaning as long as you have a healer in the team, you're always going to get that lovely damage that you do need. Then with the second passive being Outshine the Sun, during battle she increases her own attack by 24 points for every 100 points of max HP that she had. Whenever you're above 8,000, it can automatically go up to an extra 1,920 extra points here, making sure you're dealing as much damage and having as much HP as possible. All this is going to be very needed for anyone who really wants to deal some good damage with this character, so being able to have her this way and just getting the character immediately means you can deal some nice damage overall with the blessed attribute on your side. So now that we went over this basic little kit explanation, let's go ahead and go over her dupe. As per usual, I never do recommend mini dupes for most people here, but if you do want to go for dupes on this character, it isn't really a bad choice. Now, the first I would say is going to be the A1, but let's talk about the A0 first. The A0, which is Summer, starts here. Whenever you do receive healing, it will increase the damage by 25% for 2 whole turns. And then after receiving healing a total of 5 whole times, she will end up gaining a certain buff called Tropical Heart. Whenever she does have this buff here and she uses her Surf and Shine while Tropical Heart is active, she then is able to spend this said heart active mode and remove a cooldown time from Surf and Shine, which is her skill 3. Afterwards, there's going to be a 1-turn cooldown for Tropical Heart to be used again, but it's still going to be useful no matter what. Then of course, whenever she does use her HP with this said skill, she won't be KO'd at all, so don't worry about her dying at all. Then for her A1, which is Exciting Summer, whenever she has Summer Hype active, it will increase her crit rate by 10% and her crit damage by 25%. This is where I most likely would stop for the awareness amount, but of course it's always nice to have. Then at the start of each turn, she will increase her Tropical Heart's healing counter by 1 and gain 1 blessing. Then we have the A2 being Stay Cool. When Tropical Motaha receives healing, she increases her critical damage by 20% for 2 whole turns. This stacks up to 2 times, and during battle she increases her max HP by 1,200. Then the next one that we're going to go ahead and look at is the A4. The fun never ends. Her highlight is now increased, and after using her highlight, she increases the Surf and Shine damage by 80%, which is a huge dump in damage. Then of course we have the A6, the big boy here. Everlasting Summer, Tropical Heart will not be spent after using the Surf and Shine skill, which is going to be skill 3. Summer Hype is now enhanced to Summer Blowout, and whenever she does have this Summer Blowout status active, the bonus damage that she gets from Blue Sunrise activates 3 times. Summer Sploosh, or Explosion, I guess you could say here, recovers 20% more of Motaha's max HP and increases the skill multiplier of Surf and Shine by 50%. So not only do you have that amazing 80% in the other buffs beforehand, but with the A6 you get an extra skill multiplier of 50%, which is a huge deal here. If you want to invest that far, then very well you can, but of course I don't have to push that to anyone there. You do what you want with your pulls there. But now we went over this, let's go ahead and go over the skill priority. Getting into the skill priority, there's not much that you really have to get up with this character. In fact, you're pretty much good just to only max out the skill 3 and really her skill 1. But if you do want to be a little bit all around and make sure this character gets the most out of her kit here, you do want to get up the skill 3 first, the skill 1 next, and then the highlight. Afterwards, get the skill 2 because that's really the last thing that you're going to use on this character. The skill 3 is going to be her main skill that you're going to go ahead and use, so that's not really needing an explanation. Then of course, blue sunrise, sometimes you are going to use this, so using the skill 1 is always a nice deal as well. Plus it's an AoE type aspect anyways, so I mean, getting that extra AoE move is always nice. Then later on, the highlight comes in handy just for some extra damage, so why not buff it up a little bit? That's going to be kind of interesting, but make sure this skill 2, being the summer explosion, is going to be your last one, because that one you just rarely do use it. It's only on certain times where we will use this for specific strats, so there's not really a need to go for it. But now we went over the actual priorities here. Let's go over the weapon option. Weapon wise, this is one of the few units that can go either way with her 5-star weapon. Now that they've changed her kit to a point that she actually can deal some decent damage and have some decent buffs with the A0, it's a little 50-50 on her 5-star weapon. Her 5-star weapon, being Colorful Coast, increases blessed damage by 24.2%, and whenever she does have Summer Hype active, she increases her critical damage by 26%. Whenever she does also use Surf and Shine, being the skill 3, and whenever Summer Hype is active, this will then increase her skills damage by 34% and gain her 1 sunlight stack, which is already pretty darn decent. Then of course she has one more additional that gets added on with the 5-star skill here, being that when she uses a skill or highlight, she spends one of these sunlight stacks and increases her skill damage for the same amount. The damage increase from Summer Hype and sunlight will not stack itself even if activated at the same time, so you're mainly just getting some extra buffs for the 5-star weapon. This is a very good deal to actually have on the 5-star weapon, and if you're just mainly looking to give your DPS the best thing that you can get, this is obviously going to be the better pick, though it's not really a necessary use here. You can very well use her 4-star weapon, being the Bubble Puff Star. Bubble Puff Star itself increases your attack by 24%, and then whenever you do receive healing, which you will have due to your actual healer being on your team here, whenever you have Summer Hype active, it will increase your damage by 14.5% for 2 turns. Now this can stack up to 2 whole times, which is already nice, giving you that extra attack and damage. But as you notice, of course, it's not going to be directly buffing any of your skills, such as Surf and Shine, and of course with your Summer Hype mode, it's not really buffing you too much here. So if you do want to go for the optimal route, the 5-star is always better, but with the 4-star, you're still going to deal some decent damage. So I mean, like, you can go for the 4-star itself and be perfectly fine with that, and just take a little bit of a load off your shoulders on using your gems. But now we went over at least the weapon options here. Let's go down to the best gear set. Starting off with the gear set, the one thing I can say is it's only one gear set here that you're going to be using, and that's going to be the Resolve and Virtue set. Starting with the Virtue set immediately, the 2 set effect is increasing your blessed damage by 10%, and the 4 set effect is increasing your blessed skill crits by 12% whenever your HP is not less than 50%. Now it's going to be rare whenever you do get below that 50% marker, so I don't have to really stress too much on this, meaning you're guaranteeing yourself that extra blessed damage and the extra blessed skill crit rate immediately, which is always good to see. But the other reason that we do want this immediately is because the Resolve and Virtue set increases your damage bonus by a minimum of 10% up to a maximum of 30% whenever we have these said HP values. The lowest HP value is going to be 6,000, then going to 9,000 to the highest HP value of 12,000. Now as a benchmark amount that you do need on your S-Closer here, that's going to be 16k HP. This is something that's pretty easy to go ahead and have alongside of having a healer in your team, so you really don't have to worry about it too much. Though, what do you go for your main stats and your sub stats? I do feel like this is pretty much an easy thing to know about here, but for your main stat options, you want to go ahead and go with these stats. An HP Sun, of course, a what's called attack or damage bonus Moon. I would highly recommend the damage bonus side though. A good crit damage Star, being able to deal as much damage as possible, and you can just make up for it with a sub-stat crit rate. And then of course, an attack Planet. These are going to be your main stats for at least this whole set effect, so try to get those immediate. As for your sub-stat options, this is where things do change a little bit more. Your priority when it comes down to substat options is going to be crit rate and crit damage. Then afterwards, you want to try and focus a little bit more on pierce rate and damage bonus. Now I do understand, I didn't really recommend HP too much here. That's mainly because hitting the HP marker is going to be pretty easy to do so. Though if you want to have HP on this character, do try to aim for some HP substats, but really crit rate, crit damage, as well as pin is going to be more important. This character actually does use pin quite a lot alongside of her attack related stats, so try to focus those down a decent bit as well. But now we went over at least the best gear sets and how they do function, let's go ahead and go over her best team comps. Lastly, when it comes down to team options, this is where things can get a little bit complex. She has multiple parties that can be used, but the one that's going to be used the most on global is going to be Closer, being with Marion, as well as Chord and Phoebe. This is mainly going to be the one that you want to go ahead and use. It gives you more, of course, healing and allows you to use her ult multiple times and getting that lovely amount of crit rate. Though, of course, if you don't have this available, a few different healers can be applied. One of them is going to be the next character coming out, being Summer Tomoko, which can go in that aspect for at least a healer. And then as a different Navi that you can use Rico. On the off chance that you don't have any of those healers, being Marion or Summer Tomoko, the only other one that I can advise for a lot of you guys to use is going to be Lufu. So if you do have Lufu built on up, this would be the last healer that you can go ahead and use. So try to get a little bit creative with the teams that she does have. But with all this out of the way, thank you guys for watching the video, and man, it took a while for me to come out with these. Hopefully I can be really quick on these in the future here. Thank you to Chills for editing this on up here, and as always, stay safe, stay sharp. Peace out, you guys.